Hello everyone, this is Rick, and welcome to Astral Club. This is questions and answers number 20. I really like having 2 videos a week now because it gives me more time to, for instance, do question and answer videos because you guys leave such great comments and questions, and I don't always get a chance with the one weekly situation to deal with them. Now that we have videos on Wednesday afternoon, I release them around 4, and then of course the usual Saturday morning, I have more time to do the Q&As and other videos as well as talk about my experiences. So I'm happy about that. We have a couple new patrons. CD is a Astral Master, and Ryan Masterson is an Astral Adept. If you are interested in becoming a patron of Astral Club, there'll be a link in the description, along with a link for anyone interested in a private lesson with me in astral projection. You'll find all that under the description. Okay, my astral visit to Robert Monroe's alternate Earth. Let's start with that. If you recall, Robert Monroe had something he called Locale 3 that he talked about in his book, Journeys Out of the Body. And this Locale 3 was a reality very much like ours. However, it did not have the electricity that ours did. And they seemed to rely very much on steam power. I wanted to visit this place for many years, and I would read that chapter over and over again to try to get a sense for the place. I remember at one point, somewhere within 6 months to a year after I read the book, I thought I visited the place, but I was only there for a few minutes, and then I went back to my body. And then I spent the next 4 decades periodically, that's not all I did, obviously, trying every now and again to get back to that ident, but I couldn't. It was almost like the multiverse turned and I couldn't get there from here. But finally, I was able to revisit it, and there I think I found out where the critical junction happened, where they went one way and we went another. Turns out in 1921 they had a very major solar storm. And since they were much more advanced than us as far as the widespread use of electricity and interconnected electricity, that they suffered greatly. The grids went down, and as the scientists were trying to explain what was going on, religious leaders kicked in and said those bloody nights that you saw for those 3 nights were indicative of the end of the world, were indicative of the blood that was shed during World War I, where it was indicative of man's sin and manifesting this technology that God smited with this storm, that we need to turn away from this technology because it's like capturing God's lightning. So there was this huge religious revival and electricity was out. I visited there for 20 minutes and was able to scan a number of minds, and I found out this and other information. Now, there were some good questions and comments on this video. The first one, Creative777 asked, do alternate dimensions go to the same or a different astral plane once they die? In my experience, I think they all go to the same astral plane. If you look at the reality as a multiverse, there are many, many realities in the physical world. And when we choose our reincarnation, we are not just choosing a place. We're choosing a time. We're choosing a dimension. And so, yes, all the souls come back to the same place, but when they reincarnate, they're looking for a very special type of place so they can learn the lessons that they need to learn. Number 2, Castle said, remember I asked people to choose realities. If you had a choice, would you rather stay in our reality with its technological benefits and also, problems like global warming, COVID, uh, all kinds of other things, or would you rather choose the more simpler life that I described and that Monroe described in Locale 3? Castle said that before birth, we probably choose our reality, and since he was here, he figured that, he was here because the computers, the internet would be best for him because he likes seeking out knowledge. Or she, I don't know, Castle, I don't know. And there were some other people who agreed with Castle. Motoriz, Modarisz, agreed. Andrew Ponte agreed. The Keeper of Shade agreed. And Christoph Watson also agreed because he thought, due to their lack of technology, for instance, there'd be no rockets into space and there'd be no defense against asteroids headed our way. So that would ultimately lead to their destruction, I guess, at some point. Anyway, that was his idea. My personal choice, I think I'd like to be here. I mean, part of me felt very at home there. But at the end of the day, I think I should be here. Because after all, I don't know how I get to Astral Club. Well, but I have a steam engine running this? I don't know. I don't think that would work. But we had some people on the other end. A good number of people, more than I originally thought, actually. Soul Dust Sword said it was a tough struggle to decide. But Locale 3 would probably be the choice. Once again, because they're here, that's probably a good reason why. And also, it's a simpler life. And it was that simpler life that attracted Soul Dust Sword. Dunny Azaid agreed. Steve Parks thought it would be a great vacation destination. So, there you go. We've got some people pro, some people, headed on the other side of it. So it's interesting. It's interesting being presented with that type of choice. What would you do? I think a vacation might be interesting. I don't know that if I'd want to live there. So maybe like Steve Parks, I wouldn't mind going there for some sort of vacation, like where you could get away from your cell phone, for instance, or texts. Sometimes it gets a little too much, all this stuff. At any rate. Okay, number 3, Kev Changu asked, how did I manage to get to Locale 3? Well, like I said, I reread the chapter for many years. I had brief success. And in that brief success, I got the ident. And the ident, once again, is a coded signal, if you want to think of it that way. And that coded signal identifies a dimension, a time, and a place. And if you can zoom in or zone in on that ident, then that's how you get there. That's how I got there. Oski, O-S-K-I, said that someone told me about possessions in the astral realm. Should I stop projecting? I hope to one day arrive at a spot where this question is no longer necessary. I've certainly addressed this many times before. You have a native protection vibration. It's almost like a coded lock. Unless your spirit is an exact match, you have a problem. The few times I've been able to temporarily occupy a body were my alternate selves. And the only reason I was able to do that was that my vibratory lock was so close to theirs. Have you ever had a key that almost fit? It was so close to theirs that I was able to occupy it for a brief period of time. But even then, I was forced out relatively quickly because it was like there was this irritating vibration signal that was just distracting and eventually started causing a sort of pain. So I was forced out. And here I am in an alternate self. So there are instances of possession. And I've done a lot of investigation. And as you know, I made a video about an experience that I had when I was a senior in high school, when I was called upon by my teacher because we were close and I'd done very, very well in his class, that he asked me to be part of an exorcism. He had a relationship with a Catholic priest and they needed another set of hands due to a number of different factors I don't want to get into here. And I'd had conversations, my first conversation with the parents of this person, and they had no idea what I was talking about when I was talking about, did this person ever talk about out of the body travel? No, they had no. And in that time, I've done study, and I have seen no direct connection between the very rare incidences of astral possession and astral projection. What causes possession? It's very rare and nobody knows. But I have found no evidence that astral projection has anything to do with it. So one should definitely not fear that and stop projecting. If for no other reason than the fact that many of us end up sleepwalking out of our bodies anyway. And that happens on a regular basis, and I've discussed that too. Waking up in an astral school with a bunch of other sleepwalkers who are getting instruction. So it's not dangerous from that standpoint. Miles Nuages asks, do you know if there's a Rick counterpart in Locale 3? I don't know. I was only there for probably about 20 minutes. I had enough time to scan the minds really of some folks who were hanging around waiting for a train. And that's what I did. So I have no idea. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I know Robert Monroe found some alternate version of himself, but I didn't have the time. Number 6, I'm a panda. Ask, I'd like to visit a relative, but don't want my mind read. So, let's discuss that. Now, through astral projection, repeated astral projection, you can develop a shield whereby no one can read your mind and vice versa. The newly passed over generally are like babies. They have a very rudimentary telepathic capability. Number 3, it's considered bad manners to read someone's mind in a deep scan without their permission. So keep all of these factors in mind. SB asked me, in Locale 3, were there any popular actors or figures? I did run across some names of politicians and church leaders that were famous. However, none of them that I recognize here in our reality. You have to think that many of these popular names that you're aware of and these stars and these actors are because of our mass media. And Locale 3 doesn't have a mass media. They've got newspapers. That's about it. So, they just don't have that cult of stardom that we have here. So, my answer has to be basically no. Next up, the video was Astral Shadow People and Demons. If you recall, Many people have reported meeting these astral shadows, generally hiding out in the corner of their room. Sometimes it's a dark figure with a hat, sometimes it's just a dark shadow figure, sometimes they might be leaning over your bed, what have you. Um, I also talked about demons, which were a whole nother category of creature, of entity. S8Y and S8YS, or perhaps it's 58Y, 58YS. Okay, yeah, I think that's what it is. My fives and my S's, they're kind of mixed up. I wrote this down. Anyway, uh, they ask if you feel it's appropriate, could you share your demonic encounters? I would prefer not to. Perhaps in the future, if I work out something, I might. But I prepared myself before these encounters, and I sought them out, and I did a huge amount of research. Not only did I assist at several exorcisms and talk to exorcists afterwards, but I did a lot of research in the occult and going all the way back to Solomon, which we'll discuss in a few minutes. So I was about as prepared as I thought you could get. And even then, I had to think on my feet. So I'd rather not get into it because my concern is that someone might listen to this and be able to arrive at this place where I arrived at and not have had the preparation. And I don't want to be responsible for that experience. Number 9. Enlightenment asks, what is your favorite astral experience and what is your worst? Well, my favorite to this day is I wanted to see what our galaxy looked like from the outside looking in. And to this day, I still have this unearthly, beautiful, breathtaking vision of our galaxy from what must have been thousands of light years away. And it was so solemn to me and so beautiful. And knowing that my star was this little insignificant star that I couldn't even see where it was, and that my whole world was a little planet circling around that star, and just taking in that whole galaxy. It's an experience that gives me chills to this day. I just had the chills. To this day, it was just lovely. And I've had many other experiences that were lovely, but if I had to point to just one, that would be the one. The worst experience, I had made the decision that I wanted to go see my memorial plaque. I don't want to be buried. I'd want to be cremated. And I did. I got there and I saw more than I wanted to see on the memorial plaque. And that's all I'm going to talk about as far as that's concerned. Number 10. Anthony Logan asked, aren't we unconsciously projecting a lot of the times? Couldn't the shadows feed off our energy in that state? Not really. See, during an unconscious projection, you're like a sleepwalker. The shadow creatures feed off your fear. And in your unconscious state, you just walk right by them. There's no fear coming out of you because you're not conscious. Fear is mostly a conscious reaction. So they need you to be consciously projecting in order for you to generate the proper amount of high-grade fear that they need. So, no, they really don't get the fear they need when you're unconscious. Number 11. Bacon, Egg, and Cheese commented that he had a shadow fight too, with a shadow that ended in the same stalemate that I reported, which is why I said it's useless fighting these creatures. The only way to handle them is to ignore them. and certainly not give them the fear they want. Number 12, Bag, that's Baag, said, love the mafia story, and I was lucky that street sign was twisted. If you recall in that video, I was talking about how you have to be, the principle of respect, like not asking for trouble, okay? And, because of the problems, I used the demonstrating of that story I had with the mafia where they felt disrespected and they came and they thought they were shooting out my picture window, but because the sign had been hit by a car, it was twisted, and another house got its window shot out at the same number as mine, but because the sign was twisted, they thought it was mine. Number 13, CD said that she thinks her astral stalker may have been a shadow person, and she believes the video will help her with a massive block that she had to astral projection. She also asked about Goetic Demons that Solomon used. I don't know whether you're familiar with the story or not, but in the Bible, God gives King Solomon a ring because Solomon's a noble, wise ruler, and he worships God and what have you. And so he gives him this magic ring. Now, with this ring, he is able to control these demons. And he calls upon all of these major demons. And by the virtue of his wisdom and this ring, he ends up setting them to work for him, building his temple. And that's about all I know about these major demons. That's about all I want to know. Okay, let's see here. Tukas number 1, is astral projection safe or dangerous with the presence of demons? I guess you can call this one number 14. I like to use this example. If you visit the zoo, right here in the physical, I don't care what zoo, do you feel that's a safe experience? Most people would say, yeah, I've taken my kids to the zoo many times, and I've gone to the zoo many times. Yeah, it's safe. Well, I would say the same thing about the Astral Zoo. As long as you go there and admire the exhibits and mind your own business, you will be safe. Now, if you're at the physical zoo and you decide you want to play with the tigers, so you decide to scale the huge fence and jump inside the tiger's habitat. And then you tease the tiger and call it names and throw stones at it. And then it attacks and eats you. Now, does that mean that the zoo is dangerous because that tiger ate you? It means that you went out of your way to disrespect a beast that deserves your respect. You were perfectly safe until you went out of your way to not be safe. And it's the same thing in the astral world. Now, you're lucky. You can always retreat to your body, and fear will certainly do that. But look, just act like you would at the zoo, on your best behavior. Don't be obnoxious. Don't be disrespectful. Mind your own business. And you'll have a good day at the physical and the astral zoo. And that's the best example. That's the best answer I can give. Number 15. Bob Chag said, I like to astral project, but ever since I saw a negative creature, I don't want to do it anymore. How can I overcome it? Well, look, there's a couple of ways. Surround yourself with light as you fall asleep. Number two, fly as soon as you leave your home. And we've talked about this many times. How do you fly? Well, you need to raise your vibrations above the lower astral. How do you do that? Well, you do that by thinking about someone that you love in a pure sense. And think about being happy in a moderate sense. And then you look at a place in the sky or a cloud or a treetop if you're uncomfortable with heights, and then will yourself there. You will feel energized, and you will be now in a higher vibratory place. And well, 99% of the typical entities that people who astral project interpret as negative exists at the lower end of the astral. As soon as you start flying, you are now in a higher level and you are above that. So that would be my particular advice. I hope you liked that question and answer, number 20. If you did, hit the like button, share it with those of like mind, subscribe if you haven't already. If you have, hit that bell, questions and comments. I love those things, and you might appear in a future episode, so don't forget to leave those. And if you're interested in becoming a patron on Patreon, or if you want private lessons with me on astral projection, go to the description and you'll find the information you need there. And once again, this is Rick, and I will see you on the astral plane.